This is the gospel according to the IRS, Breaking Points and Church Financial Updates. And now, here's the authority, Dr. Michael Chitwood and Breaking Points.
Hi, I'm Michael Chitwood. Welcome to Breaking Points. Today, I've got something very important to share with you. I would like to tell you this, though, at the beginning, is what you continually hear is what you will believe. I have often noticed in a lot of our churches that we go into to do compliance audits that one of the things that the trustees and the board always says is that, well, we're not going to do it this new way because we've always been used to doing it that way. Well, you better forget about the way that you used to do it because times have changed. How many of you know that? I know that for a fact. I can remember the old days when people would just give somebody an offering right out of the offering bucket. They'd never report it and the church would never declare it. So therefore, times have changed. I want you to grab a pen and pad as we begin Breaking Points today because I've got some real hot breaking news for you today. IRS tax breaking points today. And the reason why that I wanted to begin with this session is because of this. Now listen carefully to this. Is because these penalties are stiff. Penalties can now be transferred to the responsible parties. The other day in our important session in our time together, we talked about penalties of the failure to file information returns. Did you know that there's a penalty if you don't secure the Social Security number of a person that's rendering a service? In fact, any service that's going to be rendered in your church or your organization or even your business, did you know that you have to get a Social Security number filled out on a W-9 form before the service is engaged or rendered? The law is clear and distinct about this. Here's what it says. It says before the service is engaged or before the service is rendered, you must have an ID number from the individual that's going to perform the service. How do you take that? Verbal? No. Don't ever take a verbalized Social Security number from anybody, especially a traveling ministry. The first thing that you would do is you would present to them a W-9 form, and that W-9 form has on there their name, their address, their Social Security number, but guess what else is on there? There's a place on there for them to sign it and a place on there for them to date it. Now, if you've done that, you can eliminate penalty number 2. So on your pad and pen that you've got there for breaking points, hot breaking points today with breaking news, put down number 1, that you must have a Social Security number on all individuals. And bear in mind, it doesn't say that you get a Social Security number if you're going to pay them more than $600. That's not the law. The law says before the service is engaged and before you let them render the service, a plumber, a repairman, a painter, a janitor, any of those people, then you must give them a W-9 form, and they must give you their Social Security number and sign that on a W-9 form. If you do that, and if you have done that all the way back, you've just saved yourself $5 penalty per return. Penalty number 2, please make a note. It says this, that you must include the correct amount of information. What are we talking about? There's just one name, there's just one address, and there's just one Social Security number. Although I will tell you this, years ago, our firm called a pastor, and what he was doing, I don't think he was doing it intentionally, I don't guess, but every church he went to as a traveling evangelist, he would give each one of them a different Social Security number. And you can imagine, this has been 20 years ago now, you can imagine that he never paid any tax because everybody had a wrong Social Security number on him. So it's important for you to include the correct information. What do I mean by the correct information? I don't mean name. I don't mean address. I mean the correct dollar amount of information. So we're back to section 61. Do you remember what I gave you a few sessions ago? What the compensation is called, how the compensation is computed, and the form of payment is immaterial. So when you have something that's immaterial, then you need to make sure that you know what you call it may not have anything to do with it. So example, you have an evangelist to come to your church, you lift him a love offering. Remember we've been through that? You deposit all of that love offering in the church's bank account, and then the church writes him a check for that love offering. And then you get back in the room and he says, oh, by the way, you said that you would reimburse me for my Delta airline ticket to get here. So then the church check writer, and we know that you think she's a bookkeeper, but she's nothing but a check writer. You write him another check for $1,000, and she marks it airfare reimbursement. Now you have 2 checks, one for $5,000, one for $1,000. How much do you put into his information return? 1, 5, or 6? You know as well as I do what the information is called are immaterial to that form. So you need to make sure that you get the correct information. If you don't do that, that penalty could be $50 each with a maximum penalty of $100,000 per calendar year. And those penalties can be transferred to the responsible party, whether you're paid by the church or whether you're working as a volunteer in the finance department. And that includes elders, deacons, the pastor, and anyone else that has a fiduciary financial responsibility. The thing that I want to exhort you about today is this, is ignorance is no excuse. Cheap advice is expensive. You better get your house in order now. Don't delay another day. Until next time, this is Michael Chitwood. I'll see you tomorrow.
Breaking Points gives you the latest IRS updates and tax law. Pastor, if the IRS came to your church today, what would you say? If you really want your house of worship in order, call 1-800-345-9117.